Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to Knox United Church on this first Sunday of Christmas. I know it feels like Christmas has passed, but this is the season of Christmas, and we are glad that you are here this morning. I'm the Reverend Sheena Trotter-Dennis, and with me this morning is, I'll let you introduce yourself. What's your name?
My name is Grant Dawson.
Yes.
And I'm here.
We are so glad that you are here with us, Grant. Grant served this community as the minister for many, many, many years, and now serves our community as minister emeritus.
Yes.
And Grant will be preaching this morning, and
Somebody actually said to me as I came in, "Do you know you're preaching?" No.
Otherwise, we're singing a lot of hymns,
Yeah.
so I'm glad you're here this morning. Thank you for being here. However you have shown up this morning, if you are wondering how you arrived in this place, if you have been here for many, many, many Sundays, if you're joining us online, we are glad that you are in this place as we try to live into our vision of being an open space, a vibrant place, a place of sacred connections. And with that, as we try to live into that, we also acknowledge a couple of things as we begin our service. And one is, in this community, we acknowledge and remember that we gather on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, and Métis Nation Calgary Elbow District. We take time every Sunday and every time we gather to acknowledge that our ancestors, our Christian ancestors, didn't always practice good relations with those who were already on this land. And we also acknowledge that we don't always practice good relations with our neighbors today. And so we try once again and recommit ourselves as individuals and also as a community to do the work of truth and reconciliation in ways that are meaningful and challenging, hopeful, and specific. And so that's our challenge once again this week. We also acknowledge that faith communities have not and still aren't welcoming of all people. And we acknowledge the harm that has been done for many, particularly in the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. And so once again this week, we recommit ourselves to be a place that practices inclusion, publicly, intentionally, and explicitly. So we strive to be an inclusive and welcoming place for all, no matter your economic status, your gender identity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your health status, your age. And we invite and encourage everyone's full participation in our ministry on all levels and in our community. All belong in this space, and we are glad that you are here today. There are a few ways, actually, if you want to find out more about Knox. Maybe this is your first time here, or you've been here a while and you still want to know more. There are cards in the pews. Let me grab one. It's under all my papers here. They look like this, and these have QR codes that'll take you to our website. They'll take you to connect and find out what's going on in the life of our church. They'll take you to our bulletin and also take you to ways to give. This you can take home with you if you wish to have that. Also, there's information at our welcome table in the back that has sign-up sheets and other information that might be helpful to you. And we send out a weekly email each week that tells what is going on the Sunday. So if you want to know what's happening and have links to different things, there's a QR code in the bulletin that will take you to the sign-up sheet to receive that weekly email.
So there is a way of getting out of hearing me preach.
There is.
You look it up beforehand, and you won't need to.
There you go. There you go. And let's see, there's a few announcements today. Our kids are invited to stay in the sanctuary today. There won't be special kids time. I want to lift up partly the reason the kids aren't meeting today is our gymnasium over the last few days has been redone. They have redone the floors in the gymnasium, and it still needs time to cook, I guess, so we can't walk on that space. But I want to thank the people that helped organize that. Chuck is probably rolling his eyes at me right now. Also, I want to lift up, we had huge services here this week. It seems like it was months ago, but it was just a few days ago, actually. I don't know any other church that has 10.5 times the amount of their worshiping community to come on Christmas Eve. But that's how many people we had on Christmas Eve, 10.5 times our normal worshiping service. And that takes a lot of work. So there's staff, volunteers, people showing up. We had 5 times the services we have in a normal week. So if you were a part of that in some way, I want to thank you for showing up and being a welcoming presence to all the people that came to our Christmas Eve services. So let's just give a round of applause to everybody that helped out in that way. For over 100 years, people have been showing up on Christmas Eve, and it is a gift to the community to be in this place. I mean, you had the same thing when you were here.
One
right?
thing I learned is that everyone in Calgary is a member of Knox United Church. Now, you may not know that, but I'd be visiting and people would come up to me and I'd say, I'm the minister at Knox, and they'd say, oh, we're members there. We've gone to Christmas Eve there for the last 50 years. Okay.
Yes, yes. And so that's part of who we are, and it's wonderful. Also on Christmas Eve, we had the joy of celebrating an Indigenous service in the morning. Reverend Tony Snow led that. We had about 50 people here in it, and he celebrated ritual and tradition, the Stoney Nakoda people, and then we had a potluck after that service. About 30 people stayed. It was a beautiful time, and so I want to thank people that also participated in that. Yesterday, we had a service for a longtime member, Marion Stevenson, and the flowers are marking that. We want to keep her family in our prayers today. Finally, I just want to lift up during January. We're going to start a new series based on the book by Robin Wall Kilmer. It's her new book, The Serviceberry, Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World, and how we might live abundantly with one another. And in the season of Epiphany. And so we're going to dive into that next week. So if you want to pick up a copy of that book and follow along, you're most invited, but no, you don't have to either. Okay, also finally, there's a potluck next week. So please stay after the service. We will be having food, and you are most welcome to bring something or just show up. Betty, you have an announcement.
Good morning. I'm Betty Norman Bray. I'm the co-chair of the Knox Council, and I come to you today to ask again, we're looking for a secretary for Knox Council, and we have had just wonderful, wonderful people doing this for us, but we need someone new. It requires you to come to council meetings once a month, prepare the minutes, and distribute them. Also to do minutes at our annual general meeting and any other meetings we might have that are congregational. Now, also I'm here to invite you to next Sunday's covenanting service, where we will have Reverend Bob Mutlow on behalf of Chinookwynn's region doing the covenant between Sheena, Keith, and our congregation and the region. It's a very special service, and we really look forward to you being here. And of course, the potluck follows. So we'll celebrate then too. Thank you.
Lots of things to celebrate next week. Thank you, Betty. We are, Grant, please.
Well, I was going to say, the next holiday you're looking forward to, in case you don't know, is New Year's. How many are looking forward to New Year's? How many really don't care now? All right, we have 5 honest people in the congregation. Anyway, so I'm going to say we'd like to take time now, as we do every week, to turn to those around you, make a little group out of people, especially ones you don't know, and discuss what are my hopes for the coming year. And by the way, if that really isn't your thing, if you'd rather just sit and reflect on your hopes or reflect on your faith or anything, you can just quietly sit and watch other people. But now, please
That's
turn.
right, just 2 minutes or so.
No,
just
2
a
minutes.
few
Oh
minutes.
yeah, this is
Just
not,
turn,
and we don't ask for a report or anything. It's just do it. All right.
Yes, all right.
Okay.
What are your hopes for the new year?
All right.
invite us to gather back together. The new year always brings a chance to think about new hopes and dreams for ourselves and our world. And we are invited to explore those things that come up in our lives. I'll invite us now to begin to center ourselves with our hymn. I'll invite us to stand in body or spirit as we sing Good Christian Friends Rejoice.
Worship. We gather together, our call to worship. Star bright and whisper deep. Right? Star bright and whisper deep. Star bright and whisper deep. This holy season, the sacred moment is filled with wondrous joy and cherished presence.
Let us pray together. God of new birth and silent nights, God of hope and anticipation, God of presence and humbleness, we give thanks for this new season. Here in this place, may we see light to heal our darkness, feel love to be refreshed and renewed, hear a song to lift our spirits, and know a word to give us peace and strength. Amen. It is in that peace that we gather and we share with one another this morning. The peace of Christ be with you and also with you. I will invite us to move far and wide to greet one another in the peace of Christ. Peace be with you.
Peace be with you, Jen. Where are you going to read the scripture from? Up above? No, but...
Good morning. Please be seated. And if you would join me as we read responsively from the psalm, it's in your bulletin or on the video board. I raise my eyes toward the mountains. Where will my help come from? My help comes from the sovereign God, the maker of heaven and earth. God won't let your foot slip. Your protector won't fall asleep on the job. God is your protector. God is your shade right beside you. The sun won't strike you during the day, neither will the moon at night. God will protect you from all evil. God will protect your very life. God will protect you on your journeys, whether going or coming, from now until forever from now.
There's a small platform up here, so I'm not just trying to be more impressive, I'm doing it because I have to. In his New Year's sermon given on January 4th, 1914, the Reverend John A. Clark stood in this very pulpit here, or maybe over here, I don't know exactly where, and he preached on the topic, How to Face 1914. Now, I checked with archives, and for some reason we don't have the video from that week, but I'm going to presume that he talked about many of the issues that the people at the time would have faced, and I'm going to guess, too, that probably some of the advice he gave is much the same as I'm going to give today. But you haven't heard it since 1913, so it'll be somewhat refreshed in your memories. Now, I have to admit that as I thought about Reverend Clark in his sermon that day, I also thought about how wrong he probably was, or maybe just about the omissions he made in that sermon. For example, did he talk about the assassination of the future head of the Austria-Hungarian Empire? Did he give any reference at all to the Great War that was going to start because of that event? And did he have any clue that 53 people listed on the plaque to my right from this congregation would die during that war? No, he didn't mention any of that. We all can nod and say, well, he didn't know. And that's what really struck me, that all of us spend so much time planning and thinking about and contemplating and pursuing the future, when really, if we're absolutely honest, we don't really know what's going to happen, and we don't have much authority to change it at all. And that's just not about the coming year, the coming day. Now, I'm going to give you a task you can do when your mind wanders off from my preaching and thinks of other things. Think of 5 things, for example, that you are planning on doing today. I'm going to do A and B, I'll make the dinner, I'll do this, I'll do that, whatever. And then at the end of the day, as you're falling asleep, just think how many of those 5 things actually happened as I thought they would. And of course, you'll discover, as we always discover with predictions, that probably the day didn't go as you thought it would, because it seldom does. Friends call. Something happens. You trip on the steps outside the church and spend the afternoon in emergency. You suddenly remember a project you should have got in yesterday, and you hurry to finish it up today. There's always something that crops up, and that wonderful plan we have, which is so elegant, so simple, so obvious, goes right out the window. The future is a very difficult thing. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, we shouldn't plan. Just go into the future blindly and bluff your way through it. No, planning is good. We just talked here about our hopes for the coming year. Yes, we all have hopes, and that's okay. It's when we think somehow that by hoping or thinking or making a conjecture that somehow we've frozen the future, and yeah, this is what's going to happen. I mean, I start off every day with my faithful calendar, and at the bottom of the screen there's a list of 10 things I'm going to do that day. Very seldom do I get those 10 things done, but they're there. They're a guideline. They say these are things you should at least think about doing today. And usually I look down and say, yeah, I'm going to think about it. So I do forgive Reverend Clark for not knowing what was going to happen in the future. But I also praise him for the way he phrased his sermon topic. How we can go into 1914. It's the how that's important. It's not what we think we're going to do. So you can make resolutions if you wish, but I'll tell you, other than being fine thoughts about what might occur, they're not much more than that. But rather, look at the way that we're planning to move into this new year. How are we going to go into it to live an even better year, I would hope, than 2024? I think a key to keep in mind is one of the things we have to think of is how are we going to observe the world in 2025? Now, that may seem like a fairly obvious question. I'm going to observe the world with my eyes and hear it with my ears and sense it with my fingers. But no, I'm not talking about that very surface level. I'm saying when we go out into the future, as we're going to this week, right after we kiss everybody around us for New Year's, what we're going to go out into is a world that's unknown. And how are we going to sit? What attitude are we going to have as we look at that world? Our psalm actually helps. It's called a psalm of ascents, which always sounds like a strange name for a psalm because it doesn't really refer to any ascending, but it means it's a pilgrim psalm. And no matter where you're coming from, when you go to Jerusalem, you're going up. And especially coming into the city sits on a hill. And as the pilgrims went along, they would chant this, much as we did today. It was responsive, and they'd be singing it. The Psalms are always sung. They weren't just said. And it says right at the beginning, sort of a phrase for the beginning of the new year, I raise my eyes toward the mountains. Where will my help come from? That's a good question. You can imagine them going along and looking at they called the mountains. We're from Calgary. We wouldn't call them mountains. We'd call them high hills, but mountain sounds better. They would look out there, and you know, there's one place that people look for their strength in the coming year. The world, the good, hard, real, concrete world. And people often tell you, I'm a realist. You know, I'll just go with what the world is telling me and how it's going to be. And not really much help. You know, the mountains are wonderful to look at, and they are firm, and they are strong, but it doesn't help me when I'm trying to make a decision at work. And also on those mountains would have been the ruins of the old temples from the old gods, Baal and Shamash and the others. They were still there, lying in disrepair. Are we going to get any help from there, they would think. Maybe the old ways were better, and some of us go into the new year with exactly that attitude. The old ways are better. You know, I'm just going to keep doing things the way I always have. They didn't work out too well this year, but, you know, it's what you got to do. I know what I was taught when I was brought up, and that's just how I'm going to continue on in my life. What the psalm challenges us to do, though, is to look beyond the mountains, the firmness of the world around us and everything that seems to be so set. Look beyond the old traditions and the old ways. Look for something new. Look out there for a new perspective. The American educator and author John Holt wrote in his book, Why Children Fail, and I think we have a quote there, which you won't be able to see probably. There it is, I think. I can't see either, so it's fine. The American educator wrote this: many people are like a man traveling across open country in a tank. They look out at the world through a tiny peephole. They've got a little periscope that comes up above the tank, and they can see, all they can see is that. Point themselves at a target and start off. But if a bump throws them off course, they're lost. They don't know where they started from, how far they have gone, or where they are. And sometimes in life, that's exactly what happens. See, what we do is we concentrate on something. This year, I'm going to do this. This year, I'm going to try to get that completed. This year, I'm going to be more like this. And then life gets turned right around. Loss of a relationship, loss of a friend, loss of a job, moving to a new city, who knows? And suddenly you're knocked out and you're someplace completely unknown, and you feel, I don't know what I'm doing. Some people live their whole lives like that. Every time you meet them, something has happened, the world has changed, they no longer have the same view they had yesterday, and they really don't know how to handle it. But it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be that way when life bumps us off target. Another quote from Richard Bandler and John Grinder, who wrote what was in the late 70s, I guess, a very popular book called The Structure of Magic. Our experience has been that when people come to us in therapy, they typically come with pain, feeling themselves paralyzed, experiencing no choice or freedom of action in their lives. What we have found is not the world is too limited or there are no choices, but these people block themselves from seeing those options and possibilities that are open to them, since they are not available in their models of the world. Just think about it. As we get into positions in life, as we will in 2025, there will be times when our old model, what we're looking at, what we're concentrating on, what we're thinking is our goal, our purpose, our life, suddenly changes, and the brain doesn't have anything to do with this new situation, this new model, this new setup. And what the psalm encourages us, look beyond the mountains, look beyond the old ways. Look for the power of something greater than us. See something new. Yes, this path has become frustrating. I can no longer continue on it. I can't do this anymore. Look for a new path. It's not there isn't a path. It's the path you've chosen to look on and concentrate on is no longer a viable one. This situation is not a situation I can stand any longer. Well, then, broaden your vision. What other ways can this be approached? What other things can you do? What other people can you involve in what you're doing? See, suddenly, it's all different. As we go out into the new year, let us have our eyes open to new things that we haven't seen before, and not just looking at our feet and trotting along doing the same thing, because then at the end of next year, we're going to say, we're sort of in the same position we were in last year. We've tried nothing new. Try it and see. Now, one of the things that blocks us from making those changes of path or of situation or of methodology is what Sheena talked about last week, fear. Yeah, we're fearful. You see, if I change, I'm going to lose something. If I move to Toronto, as I've been planning to do for the last 6 years, I'm going to lose my home here. I'm going to lose my friends here. I'm going to lose things that I really want to hold on to, and now I don't have them anymore. If I change my attitude, I know some of my friends won't like me anymore. If I say I'm going to take a new turn here, many of my friends who have been walking with me say, well, our path is great. What's wrong with you? And that's what we fear, that somehow if we change in the new year, we're going to lose too much. We have enough comfort where we are. It may be marginal comfort. It may not be deep comfort, but hey, it's my comfort and it's what I have, and I guess I'll just stick with it. The psalm speaks, God will protect you from all evil. God will protect your very life. It's that last little phrase, which some of you realize is not the traditional phrase, that's the most important. God will protect your very life. Now, what the translators of the Common English Bible are trying to do here is to translate a Hebrew word which really we have no translation for. We usually say soul, but the soul has sort of an idea of fuzzy Casper the ghost kind of thing that fits inside us. And that's not what the Hebrews were thinking of. When they said soul, very life, what they meant was essence. Who you really are. Take away the house, take away the friends, take away the job, take away the clothes, take away the body, take away everything. Who are you? What are the basics? What do you have to work with? Because that's ultimately what we have to work with that deep core inside of us which moves us and motivates us and carries us on. Our reason, our ability to think, to discover, to explore, to find, our ability to love and to be loved, our ability to reach out to other people and involve them in our lives and to reach out and become involved in theirs. See, these are the things we'll carry with us wherever we are. Whatever new situation you find yourselves in this year, no matter how radical it may seem to be, how far it may seem to have wandered from that little vision you had on New Year's Day, God will protect you. Or to put that in a different way, I think is quite powerful, is we're always left with what really matters. Think of your health. Some of us in this room are getting older. A few of you look surprised at that. I'm sorry if I broke the news to you. And as you get older, you lose certain abilities that you used to have. There are certain physical activities you used to be able to carry out that you can't anymore. I now have hearing aids. I can finally hear what my wife says. Well, they have a downside too, but that's fine. As we go into new jobs, we're not using some of the skills we used to use. We're being forced to find new ones. We're not sure we can do that. But we are still secure. I can still love. I can still find. I can still learn. I can still discover. I may have to do different things or be in different places or carry out my life in different ways, but God will protect, will hold, will love, will embrace what really matters. Take some time this New Year's to look into yourself and say, what does really matter? What is God protecting? What do I really need? Yes, it's true, I love my old house. It's a great house, but maybe it's time to go to a new house where God will still love me. Yes, I love my old job, but there are those problems that have been going on for years and they never seem to change. Maybe I should change jobs. And God will be in the new place, supporting who I am and still loving me. So we go into the new year with our eyes wide open, and I think we could probably say broadly open. That is, we're looking at the whole horizon. We're looking at the whole spectrum of the world. We're looking at all the places, all the options, all the things, and we're seeing a magnificent bundle of things that we've never really explored before. And we go out into the world knowing that no matter where we have to go in that exploration, we're safe, we're held. The wonder that has touched us will touch us again, and that's really the final point. What are we going to expect in the coming year? Now, this is not a specific question. You know, I expect in the coming year that I will learn ancient Zirconian, or I expect that I will go to Peru. Yeah, you might not. That's an expectation. No, what do I expect in the sense of what kind of a world do I imagine that I'm going to encounter? Is God going to be there? And just to stop you from worrying or wondering about it, the answer is yes. But you're going to encounter in the world, no matter where you are or what you're doing, those wonderful circumstances that we all find all the time and often miss completely. Little connections made. People who talk with us and say something that suddenly changes our mind on an issue. Situations where we felt hopeless, and then suddenly somebody completely unexpected came up and said, look, I think you need some help with this. Here's what I know. Those things are going to continue to happen, but you've got to expect to find them, or else you'll just be sitting there on the train reading your book, and all the stations are going by, and you have no earthly idea what you've missed. God will protect you on your journeys, whether going or coming, from now until forever from now. We fear the empty spaces in life. We feel the places we don't know, the situations we haven't encountered, the situations that we can't fully fathom. And that's one reason I love Oriental painting. And I think you do this thing early in the week before Christmas, and the Christmas blots it out. I did it, yay for me. Oriental paintings I love, especially landscape paintings. They're one of my favorite forms of art. 2/3 of that picture is blank, white. Nothing there. Now, of course, Western artists, I'm going to put in a bridge here, and there's a little town over here, and there's a choo-choo train goes along here, and then there's a boat and a dock and 3 people. No, say the Chinese. What we can see of life are just little bits. I know Calgary. I know my life here. Remember my past. I have these skills. I've learned these things, but the rest is all mist and the unknown. We're going to spend most of our life, I said 2/3, maybe 2/3 of it, in the mist and the unknown. We're going to have enough courage, enough faith, enough joyous exuberance that we can walk into the blank spaces and say, I don't know exactly what I'm going to encounter here. It's the direction I know I need to move. I don't have all the answers. I don't have the final plan that I put together. A, I'm going to do this. B, I'm going to do this. No. We don't have that. We go out and we say, God, this is where I'm going. I'll see what I can see, because the mist will clear as I move into it. I'll experience what I experience. I'll find new things that I didn't know were there before, and I'll be safe. And I'll go out with a sense of joy and expectation, because that's what God gives us as we move. Not always an easy path. There are a few mountains we bump into. Yeah, that's true. But even there, God is with us. God will protect us and our journeys, whether going or coming, from now until, and I love this phrase, forever from now. And for that, thanks be to God. Sing to sundown, hum your joy.
Each week as we gather in community, we remember that we are not alone, that God is with us in the times we are on the plains and the times we are climbing mountains, in the challenges and sorrows, and also in the joy. we're reminded that we are on this journey together as well. And so we lift up our prayers, people or places that are on our hearts today that we wish to lift up aloud. And so I'll just walk through the space, and you can raise your hand and speak your prayer this morning. Remember the Stevenson family, the death of Marion. People or places that we wish to lift up. Children who are afraid. Auntie Jo. Lisa and Glenn. Sometimes our prayers are on our hearts and they're hard to say aloud. God hears all those prayers, spoken or unspoken. Yes, people who died on the different plane crashes this week. Yeah. Grant Bilbin. For those who love him. Those who are celebrating Christmas and New Year's alone. People or places that are on our hearts. Peace. Say that one more time. The schools can find rest in winter break. We bring our prayers, we lift them up together. Oh, there's another one. Yeah. Your brother Gregory, working through Parkinson's. We gather up these prayers. Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, who is with us on our journeys, with us at the start of a new year. We give thanks for that presence and love, the hope and the joy that comes with that. Remember those in our community who are in hospital or who are grieving, those who are facing decisions to be made, those who are feeling alone and anxious. Be with each of them, and may they also feel your loving presence. Remember those around the world who feel unsafe, for children and others who don't have food, live in a war zone. For those who are anticipating tomorrow with fear and trepidation. Help us as we move through this week to open our hearts and our eyes to see things with your eyes, oh God. To be your peace in our actions, to be your hope in our thoughts. Keep your vision in front of us in this new year. We sing once again to remind us that we might live into this vision ourselves. I will invite you to continue this time of prayer. There are lots of ways to pray. And in this time, we invite you to light a candle if you wish, to honor a person or a memory or a thought or a hope, a dream. Light a candle. You can place an offering as a way of praying, either through this plate or through the QR code. Or you can also pray a prayer by writing down a prayer and putting it on our board. These prayers are looked at and prayed throughout the week. And so I will invite us into this time. If you'd rather just sit and let the music enfold you, you're welcome to do that as well. I'll invite us as people are finishing up lighting candles and writing prayers. We will stand in body or spirit and sing our closing hymn. We're going to sing the words of the psalm, maybe in the way that we should sing all the psalms, but we'll stand and sing Unto the Hills. Let us stand.
I'll invite you, as the service ends here, to please just move to the back and enjoy coffee with friends, with new friends, with other people. By the way, I must say, I didn't realize this church was as hard as they are on Chuck. I saw the signs out on the gym, and they say, do not enter until January 3rd, floor being refurbished. Chuck. So Chuck, don't go into that room, whatever you do. We're going into 2025. Yep, we are, whether you like it or not. And I hope we go in with a vision that is just a little broader as we follow the way of Christ, seeing more paths, more opportunities, more things to do. Knowing that whatever one we choose, we are held secure. And knowing that even when the way is completely filled with fog and the unknown, the surprises of God will greet us. Let us give thanks. Happy New Year!